everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Monster Report. I'm your host, Nick Adam Poling, and we've got a special treat for you today. We are live via Skype with Mr. Tim Price and Mr. Robert Scott Field, or Scott, as we'll call him. Hey, guys.
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing great. You're coming in very clear. It's perfect. I even had some glasses to help me there for a second.
So you can see us a lot better now.
Yeah, I need those glasses. Otherwise, how will I ever see what I'm doing with the computer screen right in front of me? But it's good to have you guys on the show. Scott, we talked at G-Fest, and your voice sounds like it came back.
What came back?
Your voice.
Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting about that, but it came back. We actually had a live concert. We played bluegrass last night with our new band, and it was a lot of fun. We did it at a comic book store, and had a lot of people come, and we even played the Blue Oyster Cult Godzilla song in bluegrass. So it was really cool. Version. Everybody loved it. It really turned out well. So
that's awesome.
And my voice was there. I was on, wasn't I, Tim?
Your voice was great. He knocked it out of the park.
Singing "Go Go Godzilla."
Yeah, that's exactly what I said too. Yeah.
Imagine the banjo going though.
Nice.
And then the harmonica goes. It was awesome.
Now, Scott, what do you play?
I play the guitar, and I write songs. I've been writing songs for a while. I've only played the guitar about a year or so, but thanks to Tim and another guy named Jay, who's also a big Godzilla fan, the two of them. That's my CD, by the way. Tim's helped me put this together.
Look, you can see Nick's reflection in the CD.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is.
That's my album.
That's right. Yeah, reflection in there.
Scott and Nick's greatest hits.
So it looks like you're in there. But so I've got these great guys working with me, and so able to put some good songs together quickly, and they're doing well. They're doing well in Japan, and actually last night I played 4 of my original songs. Had Tim on the guitar and the banjo. So one of the pieces on what's that? A mouth harp? What is that?
Yeah, a Jew's harp.
Jew's harp, and mandolin and bass guitar. It was great. We really had a good time, and so my 4 original songs went over well here too. So it's all.
They
good.
really did. I think they were the highlight of the show.
Wow!
Actually.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Are you recording this?
I'm recording every bit of it, and I'd love to hear a recording of you guys playing together, some music. I'd love to hear that and make it part of the show.
Oh, that would be great. I can send you anything you need from the CD.
Send it all, yeah. I don't know, Tim, can you scooch in a little bit? Get friendly with Scott there. You guys are friends, right? So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's staying.
His wife is here, so I just got to be careful.
I know. I mean, you guys obviously, you're staying at his house in Atlanta for 3 or so weeks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's obviously the Price family's taking good care of you, right?
Yeah. We had barbecued chicken today, and then I ate frozen yogurt too, so it's really good. So
then we kicked his butt at Mario Kart.
Yeah, I've never played the damn game before. These guys, they like taking advantage of me some way.
These
and her
kids.
son says, "Oh, you're going to crash again, but you only crashed so many times on this way." He says, "Oh, but you did really good. You took last place."
Yeah, as he knocks you off the road.
He knocks me off the road. Yeah. Smack this kid.
Yeah. Is that Tim's son?
Yes.
Yes. These kids they're pro at these games. But
Tim's the best, and he practices a lot.
Yeah, I should be practicing guitar and writing and all that stuff, but I usually find myself.
He goes to get his guitar, but for some reason he's going like this when he gets his guitar. Oh wait, wrong one.
It's like you should be practicing guitar instead of doing this. Sit there and work on this for 6 hours a day. Or my Sir Jack imitation.
Yeah.
Well, God blimey for crying out loud. Work on that for 7 hours instead of practicing.
Yeah. Now, Tim, I know you play guitar and banjo, obviously. What else do you play?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I play a lot of string instruments. I'm actually on staff in an orchestra in the Atlanta area, and I've been playing music professionally all my life. And I lived in Las Vegas for a while and played all Steve Wynn properties, and I've toured North America. And that's why it was really fun when Scott and I had gotten together originally, because we met over 10 years ago, and it was great. It's one of my greatest memories, and we brought our little cousin Christopher to Chicago in 2001.
I remember that.
Yeah. It was really fun, and we'd talk once in a while at G-Fest and all of that, and when I started writing big in Japan, I thought it would be really cool if Scott could portray one of the characters, almost like an actor making an appearance in a book.
Yeah.
And since the character was an android, and since it's about kaiju, I'm thinking there's nobody more perfect. You know, he's the only android to have an Akira Ifukube theme written after his character.
Is that right?
Think about that.
And I didn't know that until this G-Fest, by the way. I realized there was music around when I came into the scene on the running after the cars, the Jeep and whatever.
Yeah.
Remember that, but I didn't know he had personally made that for me, and so I found out later that it was actually the theme of M11, and so I'm the only android to have a theme by the famous maestro. It's really cool.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And you have another theme on the Big in Japan soundtrack. We have Scott plays an android in Big in Japan. And
he's got to put his glasses on.
I've got to read it. The acronym, well, his name is Scott in the book.
Okay.
But the acronym is Sophisticated and Complex Organic Thorium Tackle, or SCOT. And we have Scott's theme on here as well. But it was really cool when I had talked to a few friends of mine who had put me in touch with him. And after he ran screaming in the other direction, and I lassoed him and talked to him about it, right from the beginning, he was more than willing to do anything to help me out with this. And he's
I've regretted it ever since.
He's regretted. He's been instrumental in the success of Big in Japan.
Yeah.
He gets an instant credibility, which is really cool, you know. And Akira Takarada is now part of it as well. I don't think he would have done it if you didn't do it.
I think you're right.
You know,
not to pop myself.
No, I think so. I think he saw that. He goes, hey, that's Scott. And I went, yeah. And I think another reason he did it too was when I wrote the character, his name is Dr. Takarada.
Yeah.
And of course, I wasn't.
Perfect.
I wasn't using his image or his likeness because I didn't have his consent. But the character was him, and I always thought about him as the character. And then through a few channels, I was put in touch with his English liaison and through his offices, and he had said I sent a proposal about using Takarada in it, and I explained the character's name and all of this stuff, and then they asked for preliminary sketches of his character. They asked for a few paragraphs to make sure he approved of the character.
Sure.
And the character in the book's name is Kiyoshi Takarada. And after it was all said and done and he agreed to do it, there was a little note in his email saying, I like this character, as Kiyoshi Takarada was my father's name.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah, and I had no idea. And I think, it was just a coincidence.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was a coincidence. I think it was something bigger than that.
Well, it was fate. Is what it was.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You know, the interesting thing about my name in the book, too, I use Scott Tissue all the time.
But it was neat when we started talking about this. Scott said, well, I'm a singer-songwriter, and I work on songs and do this, and we started doing a little collaborate. Uh-oh, the cat's coming. We started doing a little collaborating on Skype. And so we're working on music from Atlanta to Osaka, thanks to the wonders of the internet.
This guy.
And it was just like this. We're sitting right here.
Yeah.
And
get your guitar, man.
yeah. So what we did was last year before G-Fest, Scott wanted to come out with a CD. So what we did last year, which was a lot of fun, 6 months before he came to Chicago, he came here prior to G-Fest. So for 6 months, me and my people down here put together his entire CD.
I wrote songs. We talked over Skype. I recorded on a guitar what I wanted, and then we talked about the way to do it. And they had it all ready with all the tracks once I got here. So we basically just had to put the voice in.
Yeah, so when he came here, he digitally recorded something.
I have friends who take years to get a CD done, some of these people. And we were able to do it, what was it, a week?
Yeah, we did it quick.
It was a week getting all the
Your part. It was ruthless for him, man, because it's like, we even had most of the backups done by the time he had backup vocals done by the time he got here. And so he would record something on like an H4 or a digital device, and he'd record it and he'd sing along and he'd send it to me, and I'd go, okay. And I'd take the track and I'd work with the track and do the same guitar part, but I'd record it do a few things, send it back to him. He'd send me an okay, and we collaborated via that way. And then when we would get the song to the point where we thought it was ready to record, we'd send the completed product to him, the completed song, or the internet. He'd listen to it and say, yeah, that sounds great. Then we put the finishing touches on it. So by the time he got here, we had like 8 songs ready to record. And then poor Scott was in the studio for 8 straight days singing his butt off for like 6 hours.
But my voice was there this time. Yeah. I didn't disappear.
It was fun.
It was a lot of fun, and it was just so natural, and everybody was there. All the guys that they brought in to sing back up and stuff like that, really professional, very good, all great singers. And the CD, this is it right here, but it's done really well in Japan. We did them all in English, but I wrote out all the lyrics in PDF files, so they're all in the CD in English, and then the Japanese translation, and then in a Japanese alphabet, so they can sing as close to English as possible. So it actually becomes an English tool to learn how to sing English better as well. And so it really turned out well. And so a great, compliments from this thing from a lot of people in America and Japan. So it's really cool.
And your idea, he had a great idea for the CD. So on the CD, there's all of the tracks. Then there's all of the tracks with backups, but no vocals. So there's a karaoke version of the CD that comes with the CD, because we all know how big karaoke is in Japan.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, baby.
Awesome. Now, Tim, I want to come back to Big in Japan in a few. If I could talk to
good.
Yeah, and if Scott, if I could talk to you a little, some of our viewers, to get kind of your backstory, how it is that you ended up landing the role of M11 in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah.
It's a very interesting story.
I'd love to hear it.
You want me to talk?
It's all you.
Yeah, okay. I played. I was recruited. I was scouted out by a professional baseball team in Japan. I was playing 3A ball in California, and a Japanese team came in and picked me up, called the Hawks. And they brought me in. And to go back even a little bit farther, when I was in junior high school, our teacher brought this big box in front of us and said, we're going to have a thing where we can have pen pals in other countries. And this big box had all the names of all these kids and their addresses in there. And so I stuck my hand in. I happened to pull out a piece of paper that had a little boy from Tokyo in it.
Okay.
And then you don't think anything about it. And then they went around again. They still had a few more pictures left. Not pictures. They had a few more names left in the box. And they said, well, anybody else who wants another... Oh, is he taking pictures?
Yes, he is.
Anyone else who wants another name, you want to go in? And so I said, okay, I'll have another one. I put my hand in again and took it out. And it was a girl from Eastern Osaka. And after asking the teacher, she said there was only 2 Japanese kids in the whole box, and I got both of them. So that's kind of telling me that someday, I didn't know at the time, but someday I would probably be doing something with Japan. And so, anyway, back to the story. I was playing baseball. I played a year, and then the team got bought out by another team. My Japanese had, in a few months, become very good. I was working in a Chinese restaurant in the middle of Osaka, making ramen and making wontons and all that kind of stuff, and fried rice. And my Japanese got really good very quickly. And they brought me into a radio program, not to be on it necessarily, but to find translators who could simultaneously translate for this program. Because it was a 3-hour live program, and they were going to talk to people in different countries. And so I was actually there to find other translators, and some of them were good translators, but they weren't entertainers. They were really, it's a nighttime program, and everybody would probably fall asleep listening to their translations. And so they said, hey, you're funny, you should do this. And so for the next 2 weeks, I did all of the translating from Monday to Friday all by myself. And I figured out that I could do this. And it just so happened that the Friday night, guy who was in charge of Friday night was actually Kazuki Omori, who is the director of Biolante and my movie Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. And we hit it off. We became really good friends. We talked to many people, we talked to... who's the famous Ford guy, the director from way back? Do you know his name?
The Japanese director?
No, American Ford. His last name's Ford.
You're talking about,
the real famous one, long time ago.
Yeah, not Francis Ford Coppola.
His last name's Ford. I can't get his first name out. I forgot.
Henry
Ford. He made cars.
That Ford guy?
Anyway, the famous Ford. He made a lot of movies. we had him on the program, and Omori was going crazy. We had some people from the Ninja era in the States. We had Michael Douglas on the show one time. We had some other, we were just talking on radio. And so Omori and I hit it off really well. He decided to do this Godzilla versus King Ghidorah movie, and he wanted someone who could run really fast. And I had been playing baseball, so I was in really, really good shape. I'm still in very good shape, by the way. And awesome. We were doing, he just said, and the part was just a small part. He said, it'd take about a week of your time. And then this Hurricane New, who's right. Was that
John Ford?
John Ford. That's the name of the director.
Okay.
We had him on that. I don't mean to jump all over. We had him on that a week before he died.
Okay.
So we actually did his last interview between Japan and America before John Ford passed away. So it was a really good interview. Anyway, Omori was so happy with all this. He wanted someone who could run, someone who was athletically inclined, and he looked at me and he says, you don't have to talk much. I speak the Osaka dialect, and that's something they kind of laugh at because they want the standard Tokyo dialect for movies, usually. Yeah. But anyway, so he said, yeah, I can run fast, I can do all this stuff, and it's supposed to be about a week. And also they started writing out the script, and it got longer and longer and longer and longer, and I ended up being in most of the movie. Mm-hmm. And so I think I'm not in the first 10 or 20 minutes, and then from there until the end, I'm in the whole movie. And so it turned out to be a pretty good part.
Yeah, it sure did.
So that was basically it, a radio program that we did together with Omori. Started off, we became good friends. He wanted to have some foreigners in the movie, and I just happened to be in the best of shape out of all of them, and we were close. Not friendly wise, we were close because we were always on the same program and stuff. And he knew what I did on the radio, and I think that's why he was confident that I could do this as well. Because I always showed up on time, and I always spent a lot of time preparing for this radio program. And so that's how it basically started. So
and that turned into a role of a lifetime, because you're joining the ranks of like Nick Adams.
Yeah.
And I told you at the convention, of course, my middle name is Adam, and just so happened to become.
Yeah, I know. When you first said my name's Nick Adams, I just started laughing, man. I said, wait a minute, the guy's reincarnated.
I haven't been in my first G film yet, but
I got big news for you, pal.
I have connections.
Okay, get me in there.
Stinking rats.
Yeah, but I tell you, and other American actors who wound up in like we have Mothra and Godzilla versus Megalon, a great deal of American and Canadian actors that ended up in those roles. And typically, now tell me, in that, of course, it was redubbed to English. That was not your voice in the redubbing process.
In fact, I hadn't even seen the English version of it until about 2 or 3 years ago, when someone at G-Fest gave it to me.
Okay.
And I didn't even know it. And apparently at the time, they thought because M11 was really big at the time, I would be too expensive to use my own voice. And that's what they told me after the fact. And I would have done it for free, because you want to do your own voice. I got some English guy coming in, listen to me, talking like this. And like, that's not me at all, man. What's going on? My mother even saw that and said, who the hell is that talking? It's not you.
That was Scott's voice when he said, take that, you dinosaur.
Yeah, that was me.
That was you, okay. But not
actually, that wasn't me.
I don't know. I mean, you could have fooled me, but I was pretty sure, with the translation and the voice and just the way that it just didn't match with the character, I said that just can't be him. That just absolutely can't.
You are very correct and very sharp.
Now, the lines were in English, correct, that they gave you?
A lot of them, I think they tried to, actually, we were talking about this before, and it looks like they're trying to force words into the space of the mouth going like this, because it looks like it's dubbed over too. It's not really, some of it is a direct translation. I think that's why it's crazy anyway, but the one part where Emmy, who, when they're first introducing the humans to the people from the spaceship, she says, I'm Japanese, or she's Japanese. She actually says, I am Japanese, or somebody says, are you Japanese? It says, yes, I'm Japanese. And
Right.
I think so. That's a direct translation. It gets across, but it's normal in Japanese to say something like that because she's come from the future. But when you see the English version, everybody just starts cracking up, because you look at it. I'm Japanese.
Yeah.
Didn't you have some of the input on some of the lines as well, like the "Make My Day" line and all that?
Yeah, go ahead and make my day is actually my line. Omori wanted something that would do it, and I said, if one person said it, it'll be just like Clint Eastwood, so we can't do that. Let's have two people say it. So I said, go ahead. And the other guy says, make my day, so it works out.
Yeah, it was cool.
So we did a couple of things like that, and my English was pretty good in that movie.
When you get the chance, if you look at my last review I did of Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, and understand it's for comedic purposes that I was poking a little fun at it at times, especially when it came to the translation. And maybe you can answer this for me.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
just remember, I know where you live.
Yes, you do now. Yeah, you know my friends. And but what I want to know is this: in the translation of it, you've answered one question when Emmy, when she's coming from the future, she says, "Hi, I'm Japanese," and it's out of place. There are several other places in there where it seems like they're restating or overstating the obvious. If you know what I'm saying, for instance, that whole scene there, they're saying, you're a hologram? Yes, I'm a hologram. Yes, we're a 3D projection. We're from the future. You mean you're from the future?
Yeah.
Why do they keep doing that? Why do they keep...
My feeling is they used a lot of people. This is, again, Tim and I have talked about this a lot. They're using people who are translators and only translators. They're not entertainers. They're not people who try to get the people to enjoy what they're looking at. And I think they just directly translated everything straight across, which a lot of times you can't, to make it, to give it an entertainment thing. Even at the G-Fest this time, I had a couple of people come up to me because I lost my voice, and they said, "Oh, I understand 80% of what the Japanese guests are saying. I'll translate for you." And I said, "The hell you will," because they're not going to enjoy it. Because what I do is a little bit different than what most people do. I tell everybody exactly what the people are saying, but I say it in a way that they would understand. If they were, one guy came up and started talking about a famous comedian in Japan, and you wouldn't know them from anybody, you wouldn't know them from Nick Adams. From Adams, is what I meant to say. Anyway, and so I would, for instance, I don't know who it is, but they'd say somebody's name as an example, and then I would use Lucille Ball or somebody else, and I would change it so that the Americans or the foreigners listening to it would actually understand what they meant.
Yes.
Type of thing. And that's how I would do it. So I think to answer your question, they were using people, they gave them just a little bit of a budget. They were trying to hurry it along, and they used people who could just translate directly across, and that's basically, they just tried to cram in the English words into it.
Right.
And so it wasn't for entertainment, it was for translations only, I think. That's basically how it turned out. And that's why they overstated everything, because it was a very, very strict direct translation. And so, it was just say, we are holograms. We are from the future. I am Japanese. And they just went out, and I wouldn't have done it like that either.
And even like what we were talking about tonight, I think somewhere in the translation, there's slang and there's dialect and there's a flow of a conversation that a lot of times the translators can't really pick up on the vibe. We were talking about, Scott and I were talking tonight, he was talking about Easy Rider.
The movie,
when Peter Fonda is talking about getting on his chopper. And when it was translated into Japanese, it comes out as him getting onto his helicopter.
And it's translated as his helicopter. And so all the Japanese people are looking at the subtitles.
We're looking for the helicopter.
The helicopter. It says,
I know.
Motorcycle, man. And so I point up and they say, there it is! He goes!
So in a lot of ways,
I didn't understand what's going on.
and those situations can be very humorous like that. For instance, we had an exchange student here in the school that I graduated from, and I remember, we were about to go on for a musical performance. She was part of our group, and a teacher or someone comes out and says, we're about to go on in a few minutes. Does anyone need to use the sandbox?
That's it, yeah.
Sandbox?
And she's going, what?
Yes.
Sandbox.
And I've heard of other situations where a Japanese translator was there, translating. Someone made a joke in English to this lecture hall of Japanese citizens, and they said the joke. It didn't make sense in Japanese, so they said, "Mr. Smith has made a joke. Please be kind and laugh at him."
Yeah. and that's about what, a lot of times what they do. He says, "Oh, he's about to say a joke, so get ready. You're gonna have to laugh right now. 3, 2, 1. Okay, everybody laugh." Thank you.
Yeah. And they take the credit for it.
It's called a Ghidorah. Wadai means to laugh. Giri means out of duty. So it's out of duty that you. And it happens in Japanese all the time too. A lot of the singers and a lot of the comedians, when they say something really fast, and even the Japanese people don't understand what he's saying, they'll just start laughing.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, I understand pretty much everything everybody's talking about. I said, man, I didn't understand what he was saying. What did he just say? I don't know. But what are you laughing for? Well, everybody else is laughing. I'm just laughing because they are. And so,
Okashi ne.
Okashi ne.
It's just, it was what we were supposed to do. It's the cue, and sometimes it's the way he said it. It may be the rapid fire way he said it.
That's big in Japan too. Yeah.
You said the magic word.
Yeah. 2 more minutes, Scott. If you'd kind of talk to me about being in Godzilla. Obviously, I don't know. Were you a Godzilla fan first, or did you become one later, or are you just completely devoid of Godzilla and it's like I don't want to hear anymore?
I always liked Godzilla as a kid. I just I've always been in sports. I was a baseball player. I had a glove when I was born. I had a very strong arm. I was always into sports, and so kaiju and stuff like that was secondhand. It was just something else. But I think the first monster I really remember was actually King Ghidorah, but as Monster Zero.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. So it was one of the first movies I remember with the 3-headed thing, and I was just, wow, look at that. That is something else. So I remember Monster Zero more than any other movie monster at the time. But when Godzilla, the first time I saw him, he was kicking butt all over the place. I really liked that. And so I've never gotten really into detail of the different types of faces or different types of atomic breath that comes out of the thing, because a lot of people ask me, well, the 1989 Godzilla and the 1993 Godzilla, their atomic breath was so much different. What do you think about that? They're different. I didn't know that. And they're always talking about the different, faces and different bodies. And what? They're not the same.
Yeah, you can probably ask Nick and I that question, and we'll tell you.
Right. Leave that.
Yeah, you guys. I just work here, man. I don't know what's going on.
Right. Leave that to the hardcore.
So I was a fan. I've always liked it, but it's music to me, and music and movies are the same. I was a movie critic for 3 years in Japan, and so one of my jobs was to see American movies and then talk about it on a 10-minute program in Japan. Okay. But I would always watch it twice because I hate critiquing things. Mm-hmm. I just want to watch it for the fun. And so, the funny thing about the G-Fest too, I hadn't seen the new Godzilla movie yet because it hadn't come out. It came out in Japan yesterday.
Yeah, that's right.
And I hadn't seen it yet, so I got, the G-Fest. Oh, you haven't seen it? Well, I don't want to wreck it for you, but let me just tell you this little bit. I had 100 people tell me little bits, and so I saw the whole movie before I even got to see it.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
We went and saw it. And I pretty much knew what was going on with her. I know she's gonna die. He's gonna die. This is what's gonna happen. And so I already pretty much knew. And so I just wanted to have a good time watching the movie. And so basically, I'm a fan in that I like to watch the kaiju do their thing. I like the fight scenes. I like watching the fight scenes more than I like watching the people actually in the thing. But I thought this new Godzilla movie was interesting, and I'm glad that it has drummed up an interest with a lot of people who may have not have been fans before. Yeah. And it's doing so well that they're going to make a sequel. And now I need your help, Nick. We got to make sure we get me in the sequel too.
That's right.
That's right. And what's really cool too is Scott actually was Ultraman in the '90s as well.
That's right.
Yeah, and which I forgot about myself. Yeah, it reminded me. Yeah.
Ultraman Neos.
Neos, it's sort of cool. And so, to answer your question, I'm a Godzilla fan. I try not to go into too much detail, but I recently, since this is the 16th time I've been to the G-Fest, I realized that I need to know a little bit more about the kaiju, and so I do have a encyclopedia on kaiju now that I've started to read pieces of, and so it's cool. I think I'll know a lot more as the years go on, and I'll be more of a fan that way, I think. So.
Now, were you Ultraman in the entire series of the Neo?
I don't even know how big the series is. I don't think it ever made it to the movie theater. I think it turned into a TV one because they ran out of money.
Right. Yeah.
And I played in a lot more. I mean, I filmed for probably 4 or 5 weeks, and I ended up on only, I think, the 5th and 6th one, or 6th and 7th one, or something like that.
Yep.
I was actually playing 2 parts, and I was actually beating the crap out of myself in a lot of the scenes. We had some other American come in who had this blonde hair, and he had his back to the camera, and I was beating the crap out of him. But none of those scenes are in the movie.
Okay.
And so I played a CIA agent, and then I changed it to what is it, Ultraman 721, and I saved the world again. So in Japan in Japanese they have a saying: something that happens twice will happen 3 times. I've saved Japan and the world from Godzilla once. I've saved them from aliens once as Ultraman, and so one more thing's going to happen here soon, man. So get ready.
Maybe the next legendary Godzilla. We'll try.
Hey,
We'll see.
It's up to you guys to help me. I'm
Yeah.
doing my part. I'm going to get there, but
We'll start a campaign, I guess.
it would be cool.
Now tell me about working on King Ghidorah. That you did a lot of work. You had the physical part of running, but also there was wire work. And I'm guessing let's just say this treadmill of some sort that they had you.
It was actually more of a in the jungle where we went back in that time. We saw the dinosaur on the island and stuff. It was more like a train rails.
Okay.
They had rails or I guess they're just camera rails or whatever those things are, but they look like train tracks. They put me on a little trolley type of thing, and they pulled me by rope.
Okay.
And they said somebody knew the $6 million man or something, and so they started talking. We want you to run slow so it looks really good, and then we're going to speed up the film. I don't think they speeded it up enough.
I don't know if they did that, or they may have forgotten.
That's funny, but when I'm running through the sand, when I come out of the little spaceship and I go onto the ground and run, I am trying to go through the sand really, smoothly so that it doesn't look crazy anyway. And that's basically what I did for that scene. I was actually running slow, but they did speed up that film, so that was good. But other than that, on the close-ups when I'm chasing the Jeep, I'm on a trailer in back of a truck, and they've got the camera right in my face, and 2 guys holding me so I don't fall off. And that's why you can see as I'm running, you can't see my arms, my head's going like this, is because I'm going to fall off this trailer anytime now. So.
Well, and obviously now they're doing a lot more sophisticated things, but they really put you out there on that road.
They really put me out there. In fact, their stunt man, I don't know if he got sick or he was late getting there. The guy that was supposed to flip the car over, they had bars inside the car so that the roof would not crunch in. So why don't we just get Scott to do it? And I was going, okay, yeah, let's do it. The problem with it is they had one car and you can only blow up a car once.
And that's it.
And the stuntman came, so he did it, but I did come out of there, and I was the one who was on fire. And so the funny thing about that is they had these seams here that I was supposed to be able to go like this and break out of it, and one of them kept catching, and I couldn't get the whole thing off. And we had to take about 5 scenes in one shot because the car's behind blowing up, and then they have to take close-ups of my burned parts here and everything, and my face and stuff. And so I can't say cut because they can't cut. And so I'm sitting going like this trying to get it off. It doesn't go off, so I actually end up pulling it off. As I pull it off, all the hair on my arm just gets burned right off.
Oh, really?
But I'm still looking good. And then I run after them thing, and then when they say cut, I go, ow, 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 ow.
Scott saved the scene. Thank you.
I saved the scene, yes. I saved the scene. Because they were all going crazy when they looked at it. Oh, great job. You just go, what's wrong with your arm? I said, man, it's all black,
that was actually this scene, right?
That was actually this scene right here on the bottom. Yeah, that's me trying to get the jacket off. If you can see it. So you can see it really.
Yeah, I love that scene in the movie. You've got the jacket on, and it's like rip, 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 and finally you're just, oh, heck with it. Just get rid of that thing.
Yeah.
Now, tell me.
I did what I had to do.
Now, tell me, preparing for the role, obviously, when you landed the role, and you're going to be playing an android, and a lot of thoughts might go through your head on how it is I'm going to play this, and I don't know if there was inspiration from other films you've seen or television shows, or the fact that they kind of had a complicated robot because your loyalties change halfway through the movie. You're also an android that can show emotion at times. So tell me about maybe some of the inspiration that you had to developing the M11 role.
Well, the first thing is I knew he was from the 23rd century, so he couldn't be anything like, you know, a mechanical robot. He should be pretty fluid and fluid, I guess is the right word, of things. But at the same time, being 23rd century, he should take on some characteristics of humans as well. I was pretty much run by the discs that were inside my head, and so I was on the side of whoever had their discs in my head.
That's right.
And so that's basically the simple, you know, hardware of the whole thing. But taking it on, I just basically didn't think of too many other, you know, the thought of the Terminator was the first thing I thought of, but I'm kind of a cute Terminator compared to the Terminator. The thing I did like was that I'm a fast robot, I'm a fast android. I don't see too many androids, they're really strong mostly, but you don't see them run really fast. And so I really like that part of it. But basically I tried to stay a little bit mechanical, so they knew I was different than a human. But then at times, when I smile at the one guy, when I tell him to come outside, and Emmy when I say, okay, my boss, and stuff like that. So it is a little bit closer to humans as well. And so, you know, I wasn't really looking at anybody really much of how to do that, just being in the 23rd century, but also having a human side as well is what I went for. And they seemed to like what I did. In fact, I had a lot more scenes in that too, but again, they had the movie was getting too long, so they cut a few of the scenes out, but it was good.
Okay, yeah, absolutely, and I know that it is definitely an original one because, you know, a lot of people might default to maybe their favorite. They might say, well, I like Data from Star Trek, so I'm gonna play him up this way, and just like, or I'm gonna play just like, you know, the Terminator, like you said, or any of your favorite ones, but in developing your own one and coming up with, like you said, the fluid motion that he's, you know, a couple hundred years into the future, they've probably perfected the idea of robotics.
They just need to perfect my running a little bit better, but
well, I mean, you caught up with them. So, I mean, you got them. So
yeah, I did what I needed to do. But they also asked me, they said, can you pick up a Jeep?
Sure.
I can do anything, man. Give it to me. I'll do it without even thinking about it. I'll do it. But you know, you don't pick up a Jeep. But I was able to. I did really good in that shot.
Now, when you're here in Atlanta, Tim must be loading his own CDs into your head right now.
Well, actually, I have Bon Jovi on this side, and I have Tim on the other side. Yes.
Yeah, he just loads his favorites up. Right? Yeah,
exactly.
So you've got your own playlist going always. So okay. Well, I was gonna bring in Tim for Big in Japan. I didn't know if there was anything else you want to add to this, Scott, but stick around.
Well, I really enjoyed the movie. People have always asked, again, what you just asked, how I got the role and what it's done for me since that time. And I'm always looking forward. I'm a person looking at what's going to happen today and then tomorrow and then a year from now and 10 years from now. So I really don't look back much. But going to the G-Fest every year has kind of given me a way to look back and see exactly what this has done. And this is one of the things that I really didn't realize how much it's actually changed my life. I've always been a very positive person, but the doors that were opened because of Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, having been in that movie gave me Ultraman, having been in that movie gave me radio, having been in that movie gave me TV events and other things that I've been able to do. So it's pretty much connected me to a lot of things going on in Japan, but also in the States, because you know, when people say, what do you do? Oh, you're an English teacher? I said, no, I'm an android from the 23rd century. And they go, what? And then they jump back. And, you know, I've talked to Will Smith, I've talked to David Beckham, I've talked to Tiger Woods, I've talked to a lot of these famous people, and just regular folk who are businessmen who come over, you know, presidents of companies. And we talk about this. It kind of breaks the ice because they're not expecting this, you know. And so in a lot of ways, it's kind of opened up everything for me. And I think there's something out there for everybody. It may not be Godzilla, but if you find that one little thing that changes everything, you grab onto it and use it for what it's worth. And it's really done. And I mean, because of it, I've met Tim. Because of it, I've been able to do music. Because of it, I've met you now. And so it's one little thing. It's, you know, it's a nice part, but it's one little piece of my history that's kind of opened up a lot of things. And so, and it just keeps performing. It just keeps doing good things for me. So it's cool.
What would you say, other than obviously coming back to G-Fest and hanging out with us crazy Godzilla geeks?
Yeah.
What else is it you do? I know you do some personal training. Is that correct?
Yes. My profession is basically I'm a trainer. I was a professional baseball player, but I also went to school to learn to be a trainer, sports biomechanics, sports psychology is what I got my PhD in, and so I teach at a college in Osaka as well. I work with athletes. I work with Olympic athletes. I've worked with the female synchronized swimming team for the last 8 years ago. I worked for them. 4 years ago, I worked with them. Then they said they didn't need me anymore, and they didn't get any medals this last time. So I said, and so the captain has called me back, and it looks like I'll be working with them again. And so, yeah, I do a lot of that. I do motivational speaking. I write songs. I'm working on the tsunami aid right now. I've been doing that ever since it happened, 3.5 years. We're still trying to get things going. There's a lot of red tape, a lot of greed with the governments, with the construction companies, and then with the people who want to get their homes built, because as time goes by, they expect more out of everything. And so it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's a learning experience. But I'm doing a lot of things, and I continue to do it.
Well, and thank you so much for all that you've done and making your appearance at G-Fest as often as you have. And I know we're very blessed to have you there as a translator. And how just what I want to let people know is how approachable you were. You didn't even know me from Adam, and
there he is.
This crazy guy walks.
You know him from Nick Adams.
Yeah. This crazy guy walks up to you wanting an interview, and you're like, sure. Well, okay. I'm not going to put you through the misery of, you needed your voice. You absolutely did.
Yeah, I appreciated that. Well, there were a lot of people asked me for interviews, even with my voice as it was, and I said, man, guys, give me a break here. I'd love to do them. I can't get my voice out at all. And so, but yeah, it's cool. And I like to do this, and if I get anything I can do to help. I love going back to the G-Fest mostly because the people are good people. If they're greedy, if there were some of these big cons that are out there with a lot of crazy people, I don't mean in a weird way, crazy people, or if they were just getting greedy with everything, I wouldn't go back. But the people are good. I think my translation is good for the con because it is simultaneous, and I don't have to write anything down. I can just listen and talk, but I make it entertaining for everybody, including the guests who are speaking. And so this time, Kawakita and Sasaki and Miss I, they all enjoyed it. They all sent me emails saying, man, it was so much fun because we understood we could experience the whole thing and not just be there as guests. And so I think that's what I do best, and I'm glad to do it. And if they continue to ask me back, I will be back again next year. So, yeah.
Excellent. And what I think was really great about having them as guests, my wife and kids and I were sitting there at breakfast in the hotel, and there was Kawakita.
Oh, nice.
And then the next day there was Don Fry. And
you gotta watch out for him, man.
Oh, I was watching him carefully. He could explode at any minute. I've got you both on screen now. I think that it's worth mentioning, both of you guys, to get your feelings on this. This was my first G-Fest.
Oh, cool! Oh, wow.
But yeah, and I feel like I've been there for years, and I'm so glad that this was a chance. I've been a Godzilla fan before. It was cool to be Godzilla, with the new movie.
Both, brother.
But it's just not worked into the schedule or the budget for me to make it to G-Fest. But what I've found so amazing about this year, being able to go, is the fact that we had this once in a lifetime opportunity to see the Ifukube 100 concert.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Tell me what you guys thought about it. I was behind Tim,
great.
so
yeah, Tim's a musician. Get it from him, yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, they knocked it out of the park. And I talked to John DeSantis before. We met down in Orlando. Well, we were all down there for Takarada and Nakajima, and we had put together a videotape for those gentlemen to be shown in the ballroom while they did they were interviewed for Spooky Empire's Mayhem. And John was there, and Chris Oley was there as well. And I got to tell you, it was funny talking to John, because he was, he's going to kill me if he ever hears this. He was so nervous. Yeah. But he was nervous because he's like us. He's a big, huge fan. And he knows as fans that, we watch this stuff and, we don't want it to be bad. It's a Fukube.
Yeah.
And we know it's going to sound good. And he knew that. And, man, he knocked it out of the park, didn't he?
Didn't he?
I mean, that was truly a once-in-a-lifetime thing. And him and Chris and Eric Hominick and a few other people, and Tim Bean helped with, the whole Kickstarter program and all that. it was, and I brought my son, and we all sat with. It was amazing. I was with Jeff Horn, who helps coordinate G-Fest every year, and we kept looking at each other down the aisle and going like this because it was so powerful. It's like, and when it first started, there's the thing about music for me, and probably for most people out there, is that no matter how modern technology gets in the digital age and how sophisticated recording equipment gets and equipment to play back music and all of that, you still never can quite catch the ambiance and the power of a symphony when you're in a venue even such as the Pickwick, and just the natural reverberation of the hall in this, and it's acoustically it was pretty good for the building.
I think part of the ceiling's falling down now.
Yeah, it is now. But man, when you're sitting there and all of a sudden they come out and all of a sudden, you're just like, wow. Freaking 4 upright basses for crying out loud. I felt sorry for some of the light brass and the strings that were in front of the brass, such as the trombones and the trumpets, because it's all big brass. They're probably just getting waxed on stage.
Oh man, my ears, man.
It was hands down one of my all-time favorite kaiju experiences of my life, and I don't know if they'll ever do it again. And if they do it again, that would be great. But I don't know, and I hope they would. But there was such a spirit there. And there was musicians from Japan there. One of Ofukubei's students was there, and then with Kawakita there, and there was a spirit there that if it could get captured again, that would be wonderful. But I think it would be kind of tough. Yeah. I think John could knock it out musically again and again, man. He's great, and but that spirit, that was half of it for me. For the first time seeing something like that, and my son sitting next to me just like this, it was big. It was big, and one of my all-time favorite kaiju experiences.
And I just being there and knowing the music and listening to it in the car like I do, and then hearing them live and just wanting to sit there and say, "Go G-Rod, go G-Rod."
Pretty good pronunciation too.
And it's just like you said, the spirit of it, you can't really recreate that. You really can't capture that. And I do hope they try to have it back again so that I can bring someone else and say, no, you really need to go and hear this, because this is not something that happens, probably won't happen again. And so when I heard that the tickets were available, I said, well, if all of G-Fest is fantastic, this is going to be the cherry on top. This is going to be the icing on the cake.
Absolutely. And
it was. Yeah.
I challenged Dutch to try to get that spirit again and again and again, because I'd be there every dang time he did it.
And absolutely. And the fact that we could have it centrally located in the United States, in Chicago, in a place like G-Fest, just fantastic. You don't have to go to LA or New York to see this. There's a chance for everyone in the nation to have had the chance to get to New York. Chicago. I talked to people from New York who drove, so it's within driving distance of everyone. If they have it out there like San Diego Comic-Con, you're going to be limiting your audience that way. And so what I did was appreciate that they wanted to have this at G-Fest.
Right.
Yeah, and so
Agreed.
we all got the chance to be there, and it just so happened to be of course, the 60th anniversary of Godzilla, and my first one. So
it's also the 100th anniversary of Ifukube too.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
What a kaiju year we've had. And it all started like with Pacific Rim last year, and Godzilla coming out, and this, and G-Fest's 20th anniversary was last year, and then this year the Fukube concert, and the popularity of Godzilla again. It's amazing. It's like you said, Nick. It's really fun to be a kaiju fan right now, and we'd be a kaiju fan regardless, because exactly how you said, we were kaiju fans when it wasn't cool.
Yeah.
You know, and and
Bunch of nerds.
Yeah,
That's right.
Nerds.
Yeah, for me, it was, starting off in the local video rental store. And I tell
Yep.
my students, I'm a high school teacher, I tell my students about the video rental store. What's a rental store?
Yeah.
They had 3 Godzilla movies there and 5 Gamera films.
Cool. Nice.
And VHS, amazing, right? So
What's
I said,
that?
yeah, and they had these, laid out in the sections. The children's section had the Gamera films, and then the sci-fi horror had the 3 Godzilla films. And I was always asking, I need more. I need more. And I would go to the library to read about Godzilla movies that were being made. Remember the library? You guys do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, before the internet.
We
Yeah.
when we were growing up, I was a monster kid in the '70s, and when we were growing up, we had 4 TV stations. We had 4 local stations and a local UHF station.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up, you would either every Sunday morning you get the local TV guide and you rip through it every day trying to find a Godzilla movie or something.
Yeah.
If it wasn't Godzilla, you'd look for Harryhausen, or I remember always looking for War of the Worlds and all this stuff. And so that was a source. Or I was lucky enough to grow up when Godzilla movies were still coming out from the Showa period, and where matinees were still big, Saturday and Sunday afternoon matinees, and you're not talking very often. You're talking maybe twice a year for something like that.
Sure.
And what was really big for me when I was growing up is I collected Super 8 monster movies.
Right.
And you probably remember seeing my projector at G-Fest, and so that was our big fix. You could order these movies out of the back of like Famous Monsters of Filmland from Captain Company or from Ken Films, Castle Films, and so we'd have these 8-minute digests of like Ghidorah the 3-headed monster and Godzilla versus the Thing in black and white with subtitles, and that's how we got our monster fix, man. I'll tell you what Godzilla 2014 did for me that was really cool, I thought. When I was a kid, the first Godzilla movie I saw in the theater was Godzilla versus the Smog Monster.
Okay.
And I was 7 years old.
Oh my.
So that makes me about 230 now.
Oh.
And
Give or take.
good for 230.
Yeah, we do.
It's musician.
I hope I look half as good as you at 230.
And what was really fun about that was we went with my big brother, and at the theater, it was an L-shaped mini mall in Minnesota, and there was screaming kids lined up all the way going around the mall. And when you're in the movie theater, all these kids are just, going crazy and screaming for Godzilla. And it was funny being in the 2014 one, how that kind of happened again in there. There was all these little kids in there, Godzilla! And I thought it was really awesome.
Oh, yeah,
I thought it was
cool.
really cool. It was fun.
And I remember being in my theater, it was of course, opening day and seeing it in the full experience, 3D, real 3D with, and IMAX too, and hearing people around me when Ken Watanabe's character says, we call him Gojira, and I said, yes! Yeah. And I heard a few snickers when when David Strathairn's character says, and where's Godzilla? And it's like, that's his name. I mean, what's there to snicker about? That is what he's called. And I always have to go back and explain the fact that, yes, in America we call him Godzilla. They call him Gojira in Japan. Explain where that came from. At least the stories that it came from. But the name Godzilla itself was a suggestion from Japan for the American film distributors.
That's what
It wasn't like, in America we said, well, we don't like to pronounce things that way, so let's call him Godzilla, the god of all lizards, I guess. But that was... Yeah, but what that kicked off was the Everything-Zilla. Yeah, someone calls their burger Burgerzilla, and it came from this movie.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the reverse. People seem to think that this creature feature, is a result of other films that were like that at the time. There was nothing really out there like Godzilla. Especially in 1954, you had the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, but Godzilla is a completely different character from that creature. King Kong, great creature, but he was not the same origin story, not the same motivation of the creature. So
not as hairy either.
no.
Yep, that was the only thing when I think the 7th time that I saw Godzilla 2014.
Yeah.
The first time.
Wow.
They
Only
kind
7.
of, and you may agree with this. When you watch the trailers, they sort of made him. They sort of misrepresented the trailers, like you don't know what's coming, and every time like Bryan Cranston's saying that, he's not even talking about Godzilla in the movie, and then. They really made him like, I become death, destroyer of worlds.
Yeah.
So they're really giving you the impression that he's going to be the big mean metaphor for the atomic bomb, which he wasn't. He was the 70s show of Godzilla, I'm going to come save everybody, Gamera type deal.
Yeah.
They really didn't care too much about people though either though in the movie. Just people just happened to be there. But he actually saved him, I guess. Think about it. Yeah.
They threw us a bit of a curveball with the trailers, like you said.
Yes.
I could say that was a good, bad, or indifferent move, but I want to maybe look at it through this kind of lens. Is that now we're living in 2014. The internet is ruining movies.
I agree.
It is ruining them with the constant spoilers, with the constant, the leaks of information. I kind of find that the fact that they threw us that curveball, and then when we saw it in the film, I didn't feel disappointed. I'm sure you didn't either. By that fact that now he's a hero character. Sure, he had his portion of destruction just by being physically an animal that's trying to exist in our world, and the two are not compatible, and so like that scene on the bridge, I look at that and I have to explain it to people. It's like, well, what else would it look like?
Yeah. I really like Scott's viewpoint of it, where he had mentioned he was a film critic and all of that, and he's mentioned this to me a few times. He likes the entertainment element of a movie, and so do I. It's like going to a concert. I don't want to watch a movie of my favorite character with my arms crossed and critique it every 5 seconds. I'm tickled to death that they made this big budget movie, and I sat in there with my jaw open every time. And I got to tell you, any naysayer on the planet, they lost their cookies with the kiss of death. I don't care who they are.
That was cool. Yeah, that was a cool part.
Yeah, that was just the home run on that, and I just remember the theater erupting and some of the criticisms of it. How much he was in the film. He wasn't in enough. I say that with every monster movie.
Yeah,
every single one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's a mark of a good monster movie. You want more.
Yeah,
exactly.
And we're going to get it.
We're going to get it, and hopefully M11 will be running across the screen.
He will be. Yeah. Next film's going to take place in the 23rd century, right?
Baby.
Tell me this. Let's switch gears a little to Big in Japan. Tim, I know we talked about it a little when we started the broadcast, but talk to me. If I haven't heard of Big in Japan, some of our viewers didn't get the chance to go to G-Fest or not seeing things about Big in Japan on Facebook and wherever else you're putting it out there. Tell me what you call it. Would you call it a graphic novel?
Nope, it's not a graphic novel. It's an illustrated novel.
Okay.
So that means there's 1 to 2 illustrations per chapter.
Okay.
So if you look at the book, there's 100 and some thousand words in it, and it's a novel.
Yes.
Just like that. But there's some great artwork in it by Alan O.W. Barnes that depicts some of the scenes with the kaiju.
Show them my picture.
Yeah, here's a picture of Scott controlling the Duke, which is the robot that they pilot. And the premise of the story is it's about a rock band from L.A. that goes. They put together a live house tour. A live house is where people perform in Tokyo, and I think they're
all over Japan. Yeah. Live houses, yeah.
They're kind of like a place here in Atlanta called Smith's, where they're like a step up from just like a pub where people specifically go there to listen to music.
Yeah.
They don't go there to watch football on the big screen while some guy sits there and picks a guitar in the background. You know?
And then they have everything there. They have the drum kits and everything there, so you just have to go and plug in, basically.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
So with these guys, and they're all in their 20s, and the two guys that go over there, and they're in a band, and they're not a Nickelodeon band, you know, so they're 20-something, and they're living the life of 20-somethings in a rock band. And so they go over there and they tour over there, and they get caught in the middle of a battle between a kaiju and one of the Fuji is one of the bases, one of the government agencies, between one of their robots, and they get caught in the middle of this and sworn to secrecy. And if they want to be part of this agency called the EIO, and there's plenty of EIEIO jokes, they've been using musicians for 100 years to help them, even before the kaiju problem was, because the kaiju problem, according to my book, didn't really start taking effect until after World War II, and certain bombs were dropped and all of that.
It's almost like you were connected to the 2014 movie, man. That's pretty cool.
But they use musicians for their cognizant skills and their abilities to, you know, think on their feet and think mathematically, but to still think creatively, you know. And where one is good, the whole band is better. But if they're rock stars, they can go under the premise that they're just a bunch of drunk hooligan, womanizing, you know, freaks out there, and it's the perfect cover. So they are rock stars that fight kaiju in exchange for fame and fortune. And they're given everything they've ever wanted if they pilot this giant robot. And sort of throughout the story, and saving lives and fighting kaiju and getting put into different situations, they sort of start discovering what life's really all about, you know. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, it really is. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but I've spent 20 years on the road, and I traveled all around North America, and I don't have a problem telling people that I'm 20 years in recovery. And so when I was out on the road and not in recovery, a lot of those stories are kind of coming out in the book.
Yeah.
But I only use me, I don't use anybody else. And so that, and mixed with my love of kaiju, there's nothing in there that Toho can get uptight about. There's nothing that it's not fan fiction. It's a book based off of the kaiju premise. And so, you know, even Scott's character, he plays an android, but he's not M11.
Right.
He's Scott, you know, and Takarada isn't astronaut Fuji, he's Dr. Kiyoshi Takarada.
Who's his father?
Who's his father? Hey, it's his father, did I tell you that? So, you know, but it's a lot of fun because if you are a kaiju fan, there's little nods all the way throughout the book that, you know, get to, like, there's a scene in it where the Duke, which is the monster, crashes through a building like crap through a goose, you know, and stuff like that. And there's a lot of the English dubbed lines that are in there that kind of come out, and you get a lot of it. There's a few Nick Adam lines in there and all that stuff.
You'll enjoy it very much.
As a matter of fact, Nick, his character in the second book, I could never. Okay, here's a big kaiju question I've got, and you might know this, Nick.
I'll try.
And I haven't been able to finish it.
Throws it at you now, Nick. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, Monster Zero.
All right.
He's astronaut Glenn.
Yes.
And he's called Glenn, and he's called Mr. Glenn, and he's called Astronaut Glenn, and his name tag says F. Glenn, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
What the hell is his name?
Isn't it Frank?
Is it Frank?
I believe it is. I can look it up here as we're talking about other things, but I believe it's Frank. But you know, I'm going to look it up because I'm bothered by that too.
Yeah, because I wanted to use that name as one of the characters in the book, and I could never lock in on what his actual name was. And dude, I'm like you, and like I've seen Monster Zero 6 billion times, you know.
Yeah.
But Astronaut Glenn, you know.
Yeah. And
well, now I need to know, or I won't be able to sleep tonight.
Yes, he's looking right now.
well, I'm looking. Actually, it's interesting. At least the IMDb, which is never really accurate, they've got him as Glenn
Of
Amer.
course.
Glenn A-M-E-R.
Yeah, it's like Glenn Amir or Glenn Amore. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually use that as one of my character names in the book.
Uh-huh.
And then I didn't feel comfortable with that because I'm thinking, but it's F. Glenn in the movie. So it's like, this is an enigma.
Yeah.
Wrapped in a conundrum.
In a conundrum, that's a good word, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's an F, huh?
That I don't know. That's,
Well,
something...
this
someone...
will go on for quite a while. That's the next thing we have to figure
Stump
out.
the kaiju panel.
Yeah, what I usually do when it's something I don't understand, I tell the people out there on YouTube watching to leave something in the comments, just
that would be great. And
Maybe we'll get the answer.
yeah, I got to tell you though, the Big in Japan ride has been a lot of fun. The first novel has been pretty successful.
Yeah.
Just released the audiobook, which is 10 hours on a flash drive.
Uh-huh.
And it's I scored the whole thing, so it's kind of a Fukube-esque with a little bit of Heisei. Like I was sort of, for Scott's theme, I was sort of steered in the direction of almost like BioWars, one of the themes in Biolante. And big guitar and Scott moving fast, Android kind of stuff. So there's a little Heisei techno feel to some of it, but a lot of it is big brass and Fukube-esque. And I'm not by any means comparing anything I do to a Fukube. I'm saying I'm inspired by him. Yeah. And I've tried to make the stuff sound like something you might think of would work in the same genre.
Nice.
And so...
Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah, and the audiobook is now available, and the CD has just come out, and now I'm working on the second novel, and there's going to be a trilogy. So, but it's been a lot of fun, and I'm really lucky to get to do this, to combine music and combine some of my life stories and kaiju and make new friends. I mean, it's honest to God, the greatest thing out of this book is this guy, because we become really close, and it's really
close right now, too, man.
My wife's over there shaking her head. Get a room, you guys. But it was so fun for me last year, and I don't claim to be what these guys are. I really don't. I'm awed that I'm in presence, like at G-Fest, like when we see these people and with Scott, and I'm blown away by the generosity of these guys. Like Scott, we talked at G-Fest, Karada, and other guests, and when he agreed to do this, I was like, let me run that by you again, And for last year, when just the book came out, and we were doing all these book signings in Chicago and Atlanta, like we're doing here again this year, I got to sit in a line people were at a table, and there's M11 next to me signing autographs, and I'm next to him signing autographs. Yeah. And, it's sort of like a Fukube concert, Yeah. I'm getting to have a string of these things happen, and it's pretty damn awesome. It's pretty, and like I said, I don't claim to be anything they are. I'm just a clown who wrote a book about kaiju, and I love kaiju like everybody else who probably watches your show and like you, and I love rock and roll music, and and I just thought I had a really cool story to tell, and these guys thought it was cool enough too to come on board and let me use their likeness and their image, and to sit there and do that is just one of the greatest things in the world. I mean, I'm grateful beyond grateful.
And what I appreciate what you said about the inspiration for it, your time in recovery, the time on the road, you've got Rockstar, Monsters, Mecha, you've got all of that.
Mecha. Oh, and there's a lot of characters in the book. If you read the book, and I don't want to give it away, but since the EIO has used rock stars and musicians for over 100 years, I mean, you don't really buy that crap about Hendrik choking on his own pube, do you?
Well,
sometimes the best agents are the ones that fake their own deaths.
There you go.
And actually the nemesis is a yokai witch. So we even have the yokai genre mixed in there. So, cool. Dude, I threw everything in there.
Yeah, everything and the kitchen sink.
And it says that in the book too, because after I was reading the book, and when I was doing my first edit through the book, I'm like, Everything is in this book. So you got to make a joke about it in the book, you know? Just somebody's reading it, they go, man, everything's in this book. Man, they made a joke about it. They know it.
And there's the kitchen sink.
And it's self-aware. That's what it is. So, and I haven't had the chance to get my copy of it. By the time we met up at G-Fest, Tim, the budget had ran out. So, but I'm going to get me a copy. Where can I get it?
You can get it on Amazon.com.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, if you, and especially if you do it in the next week while Scott is here, I don't know when this is going to air, but Scott's got some big plans, and he's going to take off for a couple days, and he's going to be out of town for a few days, and he's coming back, and we've got a few more interviews, and by we I mean he, and but we're doing a book signing next Thursday in Atlanta. You're invited. And then next weekend, we're doing Monsterama, which is a new all-monster con in Atlanta, which is going to be fun. So we're going to be there all weekend. Veronica Carlson, Victoria Price, Vincent Price's daughter is
No way.
Yeah, man. It's
Oh,
going to
man.
be big.
I'm going to go there.
Yeah, and Scott's,
I'm already going.
Scott has been invited as one of the guests of honor, and I've been invited to carry his luggage. And Big in Japan has been invited as well. And so we've got a busy schedule, and he's going to go knock something out in D.C. for a couple days, which will be really cool. But blah, blah, blah. If you order it over the next week or week and a half from my website, which is biginjapanrocks.com, I have a Big in Japan store on there. Everything's free shipping. Scott and I will sign anything that comes out to you if you order from the website. If you get it from Amazon, it'll come straight from, and I love Amazon. Don't get me wrong, I love you, Amazon.
I love you.
But I can't sign anything that comes from them, and Scott can't either. So if you get it from the website, we'll send it out to you, and we'll sign anything we send to you.
Yeah, or we have to see you at G-Fest next year.
Yeah, you're going to have to wait that long. He'll have his second book out by then.
The next book will come out next July.
Yeah, and safe travels for you, Scott.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've got a lot of destinations to be at, and then of course you'll be heading home.
Yes, got to back to the 23rd century sooner or later.
That's right. Yeah, you got to take the time warp where everyone's faces blur.
Engaging now.
Oh man, what a ride!
Damn Dorats.
Oh man, right. Those Dorats! I tell you, they ruin everything.
They're in the woodwork, man.
Yeah, that's something, Scott. I mean, I don't mean to deviate from the subject, but Tim brought it up. Tim brought it up. Okay, Emi Kano, she leaves the Dorats back in the 1940s.
Yeah.
Did she do that intentionally?
They left him intentionally, but I think she was. They had purposely deceived her of what the purpose of the three Dorats were. I think.
Okay.
So, the bad guys who are in charge, what are their names? Wilson and
Wilson and Phillips.
Yeah, those two. Yeah, Wilson. Yeah. I don't remember their names. Those two guys are bad guys, and they've deceived her all along. That's why at the end of the show, I turned into a good guy, and take on them because she realizes she was deceived by them. So. My feeling is that they left him. She was told they were to be left for some certain reason, but not the reason to become King Ghidorah.
Yeah.
And so she realized that she got ripped. That they had deceived her too, and so she had to get even.
And she's Japanese.
And
I hear
Japanese.
Yeah. Just let's recap. Time machine.
Yeah.
I always have to. You watch my review sometime. You'll see it. It's hilarious. We got to recap here. Okay. He's an android. They're from the future. They're holograms. She's Japanese. What else do we need to look at?
She's a quarter Czechoslovakian.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great in the movie? I'm Japanese.
And a quarter Czechoslovakian.
and that was so important.
That next time.
Yeah, that was such important information. I needed to know that. I mean, I would have been totally lost without it. But the fact that she acts surprised, and we didn't get any kind of explanation as to why she was surprised. She gets that deer in the headlights look when King Ghidorah, what'd I do?
Yeah. Well, actually, what I'm going to do, I've got the English version that I bought at Walmart.
Yeah.
and so I'm going to go through it again, and then we'll go over it again. Look at the Japanese version, and I'm going to talk to Omori and also Anna Nakagawa, who played Emmy, and get their feed on it too, their input on it as well. And so I'll have some more information for you next year at G-Fest.
Yes.
That's a great DVD, by the way. We found a DVD that it's, you know, they come out with those triple feature DVDs now.
Yeah.
They're like $10.99, and you get 3 great movies. It was Godzilla and Mothra, and it was Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, and GMK.
There you go.
It's pretty cool. So I went, Scott, look.
Yeah.
So I said, go get your own. I need that one.
Yeah. Did you tell everyone at Walmart, he's in this?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I did.
I said, yeah, there's a really great Android.
He was looking at shirts, and there was this hot chick next to him, and I walked in and I said, "Hey, Scott, here's the video that you started."
So,
And she went, "Did you really?" And I went, "That's right." And Scott went, "Hey."
Would you like me to sign it for you, baby?
I remember,
I'm going to cut this part out, by the way.
I was just, when I was at home one day and I friended you, Scott, on Facebook. And, and we're grilling out with my family, my father-in-law, my wife were there, and my kids, and I'm like, M11, he friended me on Facebook. I can't believe it. And they're like, who?
Yeah.
But I was just blown away by that. And then when we talked a little bit before, and then I met at G-Fest, and I wanted you to show you some respect when you were, lost your voice, and
you showed me very little.
Very little. Yeah, I said, well, what's with this guy? I mean, come on, I'm Nick Adam.
Yeah, I know.
You're not gonna give me the time of day.
You got him. You'd be running after all the women too, though, man.
But and I'm sure some of
He wants to be dust.
Yeah, this is true.
I'm sure some of the questions I've asked you've heard countless times. Why?
But I don't. I love to answer them, and because I have answered them a lot. Not that I'm getting tired of it. It's just people always ask me again what you asked, how I got involved in the movie and what it's done for me since then. And I really, when I look back, I told you before that I really don't look back at things, but not just Godzilla, but that was one of the big points that put me in a lot of directions that I would have gone in before. And I've met a lot of people just by breaking the ice with that. People that are, the guy who invented karaoke, people who mine black holes, people who went down the Nile River in a kayak. I mean, just people, they all seem to like this big lizard, this big dinosaur. And it's just something that breaks the ice in a good way that opens them up, I guess, more. And so I hear a lot of things that I would you'd either have to get them drunk or become friends for 20 years before they tell you this kind of stuff. But it's amazing the doors that have been opened having that little thing there, and I did get the girl's phone number, by the way.
Oh, did you? Okay, good. It's like
so I'm going to write a book on my life story. And apparently I have a big following in Korea too, and so I'm going to write it in Korean, Japanese, and English. And I had a event right before I went to the G-Fest. It was only 120 people but they're all VIP types. They're people who actually make the little figurines that the Godzilla dolls, not dolls, what are the figures for Toho and for the other. They've been dealing with Toho and these other companies like Bandai for 60 years.
Yeah.
And so I learned so much from these people, and they all love M11, which was good for me because I was him.
Yeah.
And so I get there, and these guys, they're like children again. Their eyes light up and say, we wish we had a figure for you. We wish you had an action figure we could have made for you. And they told me that it actually was in the process of being made, and then the economic bubble burst or something. I don't know what it was, but so it's great. I'm learning new stuff all the time about this movie, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And so now I know I have a theme song that Ifukube especially made for me, and there's not too many people who can say that.
Yeah. The Ifukube.
And so and long story short, I'm going to write a book about my life. This guy inspired me, and I'm going to write a book about my life story. And there's a lot of interesting stuff in it, and there will be a lot of interesting stuff in it. And so I'll be able to answer the questions and have a book that everybody can read, and hopefully it'll help people to find that little thing that pops them into a positive direction and helps create the life from now on that'll be a lot more positive than it was before. And that's what I want my book to do. And his book really does that to me. It's not, it's not real. Well, maybe it is real stuff, but it's just, it's a book that's easy to read and it catches your imagination. It's kind of the stuff you would have dreamed about doing as a kid and stuff. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
So and so my book will be real stuff, and it'll hopefully be something that'll answer all the questions as well.
And when we hopefully see you next time at G-Fest, I mean, you planning on having this maybe written
I would like to have it done by next year, yes.
Okay.
And so I've already begun. While we're talking, I've already begun. I've written out a lot. I've contacted probably 40 people who will be, instrumental in the book, who in my life they have been. And and so we talk to Tim all the time about all this stuff too, and so it's just kind of cool going back and forth because he knows a lot about this. Got another buddy named Ed who's a walking encyclopedia and all kaiju stuff.
Yeah, he actually wrote the book, the Godzilla Encyclopedia, which is one of the Holy Grail books.
And Jaczewski.
Yes, and you could say his name. I've known him for 60 years and I can't say his name.
Oh, really? Okay. I did get an interview with him at G-Fest. And of course, next year when you got your book out, voice or not, we're having that interview about your book.
Good, we'll do it, and I will have my voice next year. I don't have to go to Korea and Russia before I go to Chicago next year. So
Okay. Well, if you lose it, we can do hand signals, or I'll learn sign language, and you probably will too.
I'll just talk in Japanese really slowly. I think. Okay.
All right, and I'll just nod my head. Yeah, the entire
okay,
time.
this is the place you were supposed to laugh. Okay, laugh now.
Yes, thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, have your Japanese translator there to give me the translation in
Oh,
English.
there you go.
Yeah. Now, and Ed Jaczewski, and then since you mentioned him, since I did get the chance to interview him, unfortunately at G-Fest, we were trying to find a place where it was quiet. And we
love that,
it went over. It was a fantastic interview, but
he's a great guy, and he's helped me with a lot too, and he's going to help me with a lot as well. But I actually have one of the few copies of his book. We met a long time ago. In fact, he's a president of a Japanese company, but he speaks no Japanese, so it's kind of funny. He comes to Japan twice a year. And he does some kind of the sensors, his smoke sensors and stuff, type of things is his company. But he comes twice a year. We get together. We always eat some kind of steak together, and then we try to find the biggest chocolate sundae, the parfait that's around.
The $1,000 one in Las Vegas.
No. We do the 2,000 yen.
There you go.
It's about $20.
That's a little better.
But it's a big. We try to find the biggest bowl of ice cream we can find, and he always takes a picture. So he's a great guy. Knows a ton about all this stuff.
He does.
So I pick his brain anytime I have a good question to ask him.
Yeah, and
Well, it's good to have an interview with him. He's good to know.
Oh yeah, and fantastic. And what I've always liked about him is, and what we talked about a lot in the interview, were the commentaries. And one commentary we probably won't get the chance to hear was his Biollante. He did that, and they unfortunately couldn't get the rights in time for the DVD presses and Blu-ray presses. So that's unfortunate because he's a wealth of information. Yeah, I listened to the commentary with him and Steve Rifle, and then immediately I put in the Gojira one, and then I go immediately and put in Godzilla King of the Monsters because I want to hear just more, because they don't repeat themselves from one to the other.
Oh boy, they really know what they're doing. Rifle's good too, but Ed is the real thing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. He really knows his stuff. That's crazy. Yeah,
but I did get that interview with him. I hope next year we'll find a quieter place, because they were vacuuming the section we were in, and they were kicking us out. so we got an interview.
It happens. You could have used my room, but it's probably noisy there too. So.
Don't want to know.
You went there. It wasn't me. I just said the comment, man.
Oh my goodness. So, change it. There he is. Yeah. And 11 himself. Tell me, back to Tim here. You got a plan for a Kickstarter, or were you going with Kickstarter or another fundraising effort? You want to talk about that?
I've actually been talking with a few people who are involved with Big in Japan, and I mean, it's really easy for me to sit here and take all the credit, and there's a wealth of people. Alan O.W. Barnes, who did the illustrations for the first book, is just unbelievable, and Jazz Ingram, who did the illustration for the CD and the audiobook. I mean, fantastic artists, and even on the book, you know, with Scott and with Takarada-san, and, you know, Jeff Horn, he gave me some input on the book, which was really fun, and he's actually helped me. We've collaborated on a little bit of music, which is kind of fun, and so there's a lot of people that are involved, and as I approach the whole idea of using Kickstarter, I sort of throw this around. I think there's some, well, let me put it this way. The next step, other than the books, is, for me, is to try to get a pilot for an animated series. I think an animated series would be great. I've talked to a few people. I have, you know, I'm in Atlanta, and if you live in Atlanta and if you do anything artistic, you know, you usually know somebody at Cartoon Network and all that kind of stuff. And I've got some really good insight from some people that think it would have a good shot. And but I think what I want to do with it, instead of just blatantly going out and starting a Kickstarter program, I get real anal about this stuff, where all my ducks need to be in a row. And because I like it to be almost to a degree where it's almost OCD, you know, I want it to be as good as it can be. And so I'm going to take, instead of jumping into that, I'm going to take the next 8 months and finish the second novel. And while I'm finishing that novel, I'm going to be putting together, with the help of another producer and a few other animators and a couple of voiceover artists, we're going to do a 30-second animatic. Okay. And so, and it'll be a full-blown 30 seconds of probably one of the driving moments of what would be a pilot. And what I'm going to do is, I don't know if I need to do any of the crowdfunding platforms. I think I may have some investors,
okay,
which is nice. But you know, I got to tell you, the thing that's making Big in Japan successful are like what we are. We're kaiju fans. We're diehard fans, and it was really fun at G-Fest this year, because the book came out last year at G-Fest. So this year at G-Fest, I have people coming up to me saying, "Dude, Tommy is great, man." And they start going into all the details about these characters. "Did you know that Tommy?" And I'm like going, "Yeah, I knew that." You know, and,
I wrote the book.
Yeah, but it's really cool. It's really cool and all that. And I would do a limited Kickstarter campaign if somebody wanted to, if some of the fans and some of the people who like Big in Japan wanted to be part of it.
okay,
You know, of the big picture. Because we've got some really cool, Jazz Ingram is actually illustrating some really cool Scott swag.
Yeah.
And all of those would be individually autographed. And there's some original drawings from the CD covers and all of that. And I have original tracks of music. So the swag would be pretty unique. It would be pretty cool. I'm not just going to send you a copy of the book and all of that. I'm going to send some personal stuff, you know. And if fans want to do that, then I would do that. And I'm sorry, it's such a long answer, but I like I said, I'm anal.
But you give long answers.
I give long answers.
but you wanted, like you said, you wanted to do this right.
Yes.
And give it the respect that it deserves, and because it's your baby, it's
Yeah, absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. And I know I like. You can kind of tell when you're a kaiju fan, or when you're a fan of any genre, you know, and you talk to fellow fans, and you talk to people who've been in the movies and all of that, you get an idea of what they really want. And sometimes when you have like one executive producer or somebody that can dictate the direction of something, it doesn't go in the way it should go. And then you as a fan, you watch it and go, oh, JJ, don't do that, or something. Yeah. And I don't want that ever to happen to this. I want fans to watch it and go, oh my God, that's just like this. That's how I know. I want them to recognize where the ideas are coming from. I want the credibility of guys like Scott and Takarada. I want you to see a part and go, oh my God, that reminds me of this, named movie, without blatantly stealing it, because it taps into something that's near and dear to our childhood that we love, and it's what we love about kaiju, and I never want to lose that, so I'm being pretty particular about how I do it.
Right. Now, I tell you what, I'm going to be wrapping up the show here in a few, but stay on Skype because I want to have a little conversation when we're off. But as far as a campaign that you wanted to get out there and shamelessly plug, as far as now, it's kind of on a holding pattern.
Yeah, I wouldn't do a Kickstarter campaign for at least 6 months and I put a post on there tonight because I like to feel out what people think about what I'm doing. I have a Big in Japan Facebook page, and I like to put it out there. And I always like to ask the people who picked up Big in Japan and the people who have been with me since the very beginning, and get their input and see what they think, and it's funny because we're all alike. We all want the same kind of things, and we want to see the same kind of things.
Get your face over there, man. It looks like I'm talking.
You're dubbing.
Wait, here, let's do a dub. So what I did was I kind of put it out there on Facebook today.
That's pretty good, actually.
Banana oil.
Banana oil. Total banana oil.
But I put it out there saying, I'm going to put this on hold, and I'm going to put the animatic out there. And if we do decide to do the Kickstarter campaign, I'm going to put a video out there, and you're going to watch that 30 seconds. You're not going to look at it and go, yeah, that could be a cool idea. And also, I wouldn't ask anybody to put money into something that I wouldn't be willing to. And I'm going to be in there putting in the first $5,000 if I do it, because every cent of this has come out of my family's savings. I'm funding all of this while I try to do it, but I believe in it so much. But when I do that, if I start the campaign and I put out that little video that asks for your support, I'm going to give you that 30-second animatic, and you're going to watch it. You're going to go, holy crap, count me in. That's what I want. And if I can't do that, I don't think I'm worthy of getting any money from you. That's what I'm looking at.
Which I think is a good idea, because there are a lot of Kickstarters right now that I really don't understand what's going on with a lot of them.
There's a lot.
And I don't mean to say bad talk anybody. I just think there are a lot of them out there that aren't worthy to be making any money for their things. And a lot of people are putting out, which is nice, but it's got to be something that's really worth it, I think. And so this is his baby, and I think he's doing it the right way. And the first book was great. We just did a bluegrass concert with Jazz, who did the illustrations for all this stuff too. Last night, he's an amazing guy. He's got a lot of talent in music and in drawing. And and this year with the people coming back and saying, man, this book was so great, and the people in it. Not too many people said Scott was really great in the book, though. So I'm a little bit disappointed.
His role in the book was just like his role in the movie. It blossomed, and he became more and more.
Yeah.
And there's some great scenes because he's it's the story of he's an android, but he becomes very fond of Tommy, who's the protagonist.
I was going to say I want a kissing scene. Not one with Tommy.
And it's really it's cool. It's really fun how his character comes up, and I didn't want to say anything, but he says
don't say too much.
They come in 3, but he does some world saving in this bad boy too.
Nice. There's my third time, man.
And I got to plug somebody else too, man, if I may.
Yeah.
Is that Jazz is fabulous, and also in the name of our bluegrass band is called the Possum Kingdom Ramblers, And there's two people in the band that I just absolutely love, and it's Bambi Lynn and Ricky Zero. And show them your shirt, Scott. They're in a band called Radio Cult out of Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I mean, these guys are fabulous. I mean, they are so awesome, and they've helped me with a lot. Ricky played bass on a few of the tracks on the CD, and Bambi's fabulous, and she's helping out with some of the backing vocals on the next CD and all that. And it's so fun that we all of this stuff. We've got all these creative people in this circle, doing everything from rock music to bluegrass music to comic books to Big in Japan books, you know, and it's fantastic. It just is.
Absolutely. And so what I think we need to do is in about 6 months or whenever you might have a campaign, we get you back on the Monster Report and
I love it.
talk about exactly what it is we can do, the reaction to this, how it has grown and where it is now and where you'd like to see it go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please check it out on Facebook. It's Big in Japan Comic. Facebook, blah, 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 whatever all the little dots and dashes are after, and biginjapanrocks.com. And I just love to hear from people, and I love to talk to people. As you can tell, I have no problem talking.
He'll go 2 more hours.
Yeah. I mean, this is supposed to be a 10-minute interview, you know, and it's like, it's supposed to be about Scott, but it's like, and then, you know.
I've only talked 10 minutes.
Who's watching the time, right? Well, I tell you what, I know that it's getting late, and I know you guys got things to do, but stick around on Skype after I close out the show, and we'll just have a quick conversation with you. I'll let you guys get some sleep if there is such a thing.
Thanks, Dan. It's great, buddy. Thanks.
But I tell you what, you think, Scott, you could do me a favor?
No.
No? You couldn't? You couldn't? The show is called The Monster Report. Would you mind closing it out for me?
Oh, what do you want me to say?
I don't know. Anything from Godzilla, King Ghidorah, or any way you'd like to. Close it out as M11, or just, you know.
Okay, you got it, buddy. This is M11 coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia. This is the Monster Report. Okay, my boss.